Welcome to ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston.
Welcome to ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston with Miss Allecia L. Pottinger, CEO of the ALP law firm. I am your host, Evan Mack. And today's episode will be episode 10, School Choice, Medical Decisions, and More, What Legal Custody Really Means. Miss Allecia, welcome back. How are you?
I am doing fabulous. How about yourself?
I like that. I'm doing fabulous too. Let's go with that. Let's go with fabulous for today.
Yes.
All right. So many parents think that custody is just about time and what kind of time is split, so on and so forth. But what is legal custody and why does it matter?
Well, let me speak on Texas because you hear the word custody thrown around, but custody in Texas is actually conservatorship. And so, conservatorship, when you deal with the conservatorship, every parent has certain rights, regardless of what type of conservator they are. So, here in Texas, you have a joint managing conservator, you have a sole managing conservator, and you have a possessory conservator. Okay. Starting with the sole managing conservator, that person is not what people think. A lot of times clients think, they say, I want to be the sole managing conservator. And what that means to them is that they get to dictate when the children go to see the other parent, what happens with while they're over at the other parent. And it's just not that. What it is an outline of rights and duties and decision-making capabilities that go with the title joint managing conservator, sole managing conservator, and possessory conservator. But all parents have the right to possession and access to their children.
Kind of touched on it, but who has the authority to make decisions about school, healthcare, religion when parents disagree? Because I think that's the part when things get a little contentious and things get we get into the weeds, and I think that confuses a lot of people.
It's unfortunate, but I have clients that deal with narcissists, and I have clients that deal with overbearing partners. And so the way that you set it up, it will deal with the conflicts in the future. So if you're getting a divorce or you're creating a parenting plan as you move forward in your litigation, you've got to think of things like that. And so the court order will dictate who gets to make the final decisions. If both parents have the joint right to make a decision, we will call that an independent right to make a decision. If they have to do it jointly, then we're going to make sure that there's going to be a tiebreaker there. And let's say it's a medical decision. We'll normally say the tiebreaker is the pediatrician that is making the best, who's doing the best interest for the children. We'll let them decide. Or if it's a dentist, same thing. We'll let the dentist decide because they are the ones that understand the care that the children need. But for the most part, it's going to be based on what rights a parent has, be it individual, independent rights, or whether they have joint rights with a tiebreaker. Typically, what you will find is that there will be joint rights with tiebreakers. So in the event that the parents can't, communicate and make decisions what's in the best interest of the child. School, though, a lot of times where they go to school it's not based on the parents' decision. It's going to be where they're zoned to. And that helps cut down on the conflict. So if parents are separated and they live in separate school zones, whoever's the primary parent will get to make the decision on where the child goes to school.
I know it might seem straightforward, but school to me feels different So the kid doesn't have like any right when it comes to school at all if they want to stay at a school, even if they can articulate a certain play. Let's say they're a basketball player or an athlete or have, or in a good program, whether it's, theater or after school stuff, they don't have a say at all. Is that just because of the age, huh?
That's correct. Parents have to parent, and children have to, follow what their parents' wishes. You would like to think that a parent would consider their child's feelings,
Mhm.
bents, interests, etc., and do what's right by that child. But sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's
Mm.
unfortunate.
So in what situations might the courts give one parent sole legal decision-making authority?
We talked about, did we say high conflict? In some of those high conflict situations, a court may
Yeah.
say, oh, these parents are not going to get along, they won't make decisions, etc. Um,
Mm.
Primarily, that's rare though. In those situations, the most prevalent situation where you will have sole managing conservator is in the domestic violence arena. If one parent has
Wow.
been abusive to the other, the party that is the victim, and I hate to use the victim, the party that has been abused is the one that will probably will end up getting sole managing conservatorship, because it's just, if somebody has beat on you, it's no way that y'all can trust each other to come back and make decisions jointly for the best interest of the
Absolutely.
children. So
So how does Texas work when it comes to like courts? How they handle disputes like private versus public schools or elective medical procedures. Like what separates Texas and what makes it different in this regard?
well, Texas basically has provisions in the code that say what we
Mhm.
talked about earlier, that parents get to ultimately make that decision. But
Mhm.
if the court has to intervene, money is an issue. You can go to private school, but who's going to pay the cost? So
Mm.
courts look at the realistic picture and bring a common sense approach and say, okay, you want Johnny to go to private school, that's fine. Who's going to pay the cost? Are you going to pay the cost, or is the other party going to pay the cost? And typically, if the other parent, and let's say the parent that there's joint rights with respect to education, making education decisions. What the court is going to say is, look, I really don't want to be micromanaging. I feel like you people should do what's in the best interest. But what you will find is that courts will make a decision and say, this is in the best interest of the child to go to a private school.
Mhm.
We just have to work out the cost. And that's where the courts will kind of do leaning and looking at parents' financial situations, et cetera. They wouldn't overburden a parent with financial expenses if they don't have the resources. It's just not fundamentally, it would be wrong to try to make a parent, pay for those costs, because that can be expensive.
What should parents track or document when disagreements over legal custody become frequent? What should they, know to like keep track of?
Everything. Oh my goodness. But everything. Arguments, they should document the time that they spend with their children, the time that they miss with
Mhm.
their children, the times that they take them to the doctor, the dentist, the times that they're in school, times that they are not present in school with the other parent, or missing
Mm.
school with the other parent, especially if it's frequent. Those are things that they want to document.
Is there ever any instance where, let's say, you're with a woman that had a kid that you don't have any like biological connection to, but you're with that kid since they were a child. And you're with them,
Mhm.
you're living together, you're paying for everything. you financially support that kid, and then you guys break up. Is there ever a case where that other parental figure has any rights to that child at all?
Not, not, no. In Texas, actually, and I can't say Texas because we've had some U.S. Supreme Court cases. Parental rights are something that's considered fundamental. It's constitutional. And to deprive a parent of that right is you have to go through a lot of steps and a lot of hurdles. You would probably be better off if one of the parents was deceased, and then
Mm,
you could make a claim and say, I've been raising this child, I would like to adopt or something like that. I would say do it early on, so that if you really want rights, try adoption early on, so that at the end, if there's a breakup, you still have rights, just as any parent would have rights. But outside of that, if you don't, it'll be up to the parent to make that decision whether you get
mhm,
to see them or not. And it's so
mm,
unfortunate because, again, you'd like to think that parents will make decisions that's in the best interest of the children. And if there's
right.
been that bond that has been created by that fictitious, we'll call it fictive kin, person, or, parental figure, then you want to encourage that.
Mm.
But people can be mean and spiteful and not think about the children in situations like that. And so it's very, very heartbreaking when you run into situations like that.
And finally, what's your advice for parents who want to protect their voice in big decisions without creating a constant conflict?
Now that's a good one. It depends. Hopefully, you're not dealing with a narcissist, because that
Mhm.
I don't have any recommendations. I'd say you need to talk to a therapist, but typically you set boundaries, and
Okay.
by setting those boundaries, you the other parent will learn, okay, I can't treat them this particular way. And the voice has to come through the person who hasn't had one. They have to be freed up, they have to be empowered. And that's part of the job that we do as attorneys. We empower our clients to have a voice. This court order says that you get to make a decision about your children's
Mhm.
education. You get to make a decision about where your child is going, who your child's pediatrician is going to be, etc.
Wow.
And so giving them that voice and empowering them to have that voice, I think early on when you start, empowering your clients, it makes the other party, it actually, contrary to what you would think, that the other party voicing their opinion, it actually brings down less conflict when that
Wow.
happens, because the other party learns, okay, they're not backing down, they have boundaries, they're demanding respect for those particular boundaries, and so I'm going to have to deal with that if I want to, have a good relationship with my children, and not do what's in the best interest of my children versus, nagging and fighting and clamoring, you know, with the other party.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Thank you for the information, Miss Alicia.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed myself.
I'm so glad to hear that. And thank you all for tuning in to the ALP Corner, Family Law in the Heart of Houston, with Miss Allecia L. Pottinger. To connect with Miss Alicia and her team, head to alplawfirm.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, and review for all of that great information.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.